the car brakes, which has been at the forefront of the news, as frustrated as the residents are. We're equally frustrated. I just shake my head at some of the things I hear, and I'm usually pretty optimistic, but I'm not being optimistic. I don't understand why they don't take affirmative action at the state level, up at the Capitol, and start addressing this, and with the courts. And until they do that and have the support of the courts, it's not going to change. And I understand that they don't want to put kids in detention or the criminal justice system. They wanted alternative interventions. But there are some kids that are not going to respond to that. And what's going to happen if you do nothing and there is no consequences, you're just setting them up for failure during their adult years.
That's right.
When they're 15, 16, 17, and there's no consequences, they'll continue that behavior into their adult years. And what's going to happen, then they're going to get incarcerated in the adult court. So what you're trying not to do, you're setting them up for failure without doing anything. And if it's the track that you want to take is, programs and other interventions, then put up or shut up, get the money and do what you say you're going to do. And let's not do another study or talk about it. Something needs to get done. And, I had a meeting today. Everybody's frustrated at the law enforcement level of the inaction and just the talk that's going on. And it's just a matter of time. There's a number of serious incidents that occurred in the Hartford area. It's going to happen here, or just waiting. And I don't understand for the life of me why they aren't doing their due diligence and get this thing done. It's just, again, if you're not going to have consequences and it's going to be program and services, then do it. Fix it. They closed the Connecticut Training Center, Juvenile Training Center. There's been no replacement for that. And kids that normally would be in that system are no longer there, and they're out and about. They're talking about changing detention. It's very difficult to get kids in detention. So I hopefully they get this thing done. I'm just not being optimistic at what I've heard. I'm not overly impressed by some of the things that I've heard. So
right.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Well, Chief, when we had the big incident up in the condos, Glen Oaks, several months ago, the council worked with you, and we did draft that letter to our legislators, and we've been pushing and trying to get them to listen and trying to get them to do something legislatively that will have an impact. And they reacted quickly when that happened in our town and had a Zoom meeting like this, and everybody was on it. And, there was a lot of interest, so to speak, but we haven't seen a whole lot of action since then. So, and I remember that and I've said this before, but I will never forget on that Zoom call, I was so infuriated by one of the juvenile prosecutors on the call who said, well, instead of worrying about the kids, maybe we should worry about these people that are leaving their cars unlocked. Maybe we should make an infraction. If you left your car unlocked, you get the ticket. So you're going to re-victimize the victims. Let's do that. That's the strategy. So, I think the whole line of thinking needs to change at the state level. I don't know what else to do. We keep yelling, we keep, writing and emailing, and hopefully at some point they'll listen. But everything that I remember you, Chief, saying things are escalating. We're starting to see it become more aggressive and more toward violent than just a break-in. And we're already seeing that all over the state. We're seeing those incidents, and you called it, and unfortunately here we are. But something's got to change in order for us to see change. So
right, and I know Gary did something similar to what we did here. They sent the letter out as well. But I'll be honest with you. From the police chief's perspective, I testified up at the Capitol before a number of committees. I was asked by our Connecticut Chiefs Association lobbyists to testify on the Connecticut Chiefs' behalf. And I go up there, and what I say does not matter. I don't care what anybody says. what matters is the public's opinion matters.
Yep.
Whether you believe it or not, the public united, working together, voicing their concerns, building a coalition about we want something done and it better get done.
Right.
That has more an effect, believe it or not, than me going up there and testifying at a public hearing for the Connecticut Chiefs. I've done it, and I believe that it's the public that has the voice.
Right.
And I think people got to unite and really start bringing this to the forefront. And that's how things are going to change. It's not going to change by what I say. It's going to change by what they say.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Now, when you say that, Chief, is it because we have to do what do people do to unite like that? Do we go to Gary Turco, or where do we start? How do we do this uniting that we're talking about?
It's editorials, going to meetings, and when they have public meetings, public hearings, getting together, petitions. It's using your voice. I mean, we've seen it over the last year for a lot of different things.
Right.
It's important that the public, if you want change, you want to force change, you have to work together and you have to bring about that change. Because I can tell you, there's not a lot of credibility coming from me with certain legislators up at the Capitol. That's a fact. I don't whitewash things. I tell you like it is, and I'm never going to hide anything, and I'll be truthful. I don't have a lot of credibility with a lot of legislators up there. The public has a lot more credibility than I have. And I'm telling you that from personal experience of going up there and testifying before some of those committees.
And Chief, that's not you personally. That's just law enforcement.
That's law enforcement in general. It's the mistrust. And it's interesting. I had a meeting today with Central Connecticut State University. They want to do a survey, a citizen survey. And they got a group of us together that went through the master's program up at Central. And a number of us were chiefs. They were talking about what the survey, how they want to do it. And I was talking about staffing, recruitment, retention. And I said, the survey is good. And it may be each community is different. Newington, we're blessed of having a lot of support by the residents. Other communities may not have the support that we have here. But, with a good survey, I can use that survey, the results of that survey, to sell the department for recruitment, saying, hey, this is how the community feels about you. You're supported. They want you. They trust you. And I can use that as a recruitment tool. Years ago, there was two things that got people, how they were interested in the police department that they got hired in. And it was pay and benefits and the reputation of the department. Well, that still holds true today, but now you're seeing what kind of support do I get in the community that I'm going to work. So I was saying, I want to take the results of that survey and use that as part of a recruitment to get good officers, attract them into the Newington Police Department.
Mm-hmm. It's a great idea.
All right. Thank you, Chief.